to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. And today I am in the center of Ireland, just in between Dublin and Galway. So it's really right in the middle of the island. And yeah, we are visiting the oldest licensed distillery in Ireland, 1757, which is then really pretty much a very old distillery, and amongst the oldest distillery probably on the planet that are still recorded. But they do have the old recording, so they are really the oldest distillery in Ireland that are licensed. And yeah, let's go in and find out. It was the oldest licensed distillery, so they were pretty much founded 1757, and they were later then sold, and it was called the Locker's Distillery. That you still have on the chimney, Locker's Distillery, by a family named Locke and Lockers. And yeah, so usually there's a point in Irish history in the 1830s where we had the new column still that's bringing in cheap stuff from the Scottish lowlands, and it was really a downturn with a lot of prices going really down, and a lot of distilleries had to close. Not this distillery. The Lockers really pulled through. They were never using any column stills in here, so it was bigger back in the days. It was fired by coal and running with a water wheel, and they actually continued running. The next big downturn in the Irish whiskey industry was then in the 1920s, a bit before that, because we had the prohibition starting in the United States, so no exports of Irish whiskey into the United States because alcohol was illegal in the United States. And then there was the Irish independence movement, so what the United Kingdom was, they boycotted them, and the Crown dependencies and the Commonwealth also boycotted them, so no exports with the British. And yeah, Germans and other continental Europeans were not that keen on Irish whiskey, so it was really a bad time. But they actually even powered through that. They didn't close. They had a little bit of a production that was going down and discontinued, but they were not closed fully. They were running on water wheel and coal all the way through. And that was going up until 1954, where they actually were closed, the business was gone, and the buildings were used for pigs or for cars during that time. It was then continued in 2007, so 250 years after they've opened the distillery, it was then continued again until today, and it's still a running distillery that we're gonna look at now later. This still is the very old still. It is 190 years old. We're not quite sure. Maybe it's already at 200 years old, but it's not quite sure when it was. And the new still that they brought up is a replica of that. But it's very nice to see this still is still in place, but it's very thin already. It was a working still, so it was worn down and very thin, so it was not reliable enough anymore, and unfortunately, but still nice to see that they're still putting it in place and you can still have a look at it. So the first stage is obviously the one with the ingredients, water and barley. The barley is grinded down in a roller mill to a coarse grist and then put into the mash tun in a very traditional way. You just have a conveyor belt, you turn on the water, then you turn on the conveyor belt, and the conveying screw just mashes it in. It mashes it together and just brings it in, and they actually let it soak there over the night, and then they have next day they sprinkle the water on with the different temperatures and do the actual mashing or the sparging to get out the sugars. What is interesting is, yes, it is a very old-fashioned way of mashing in, and the tun here, usually you have stainless steel, very efficient. Then the older ones, also efficient, is the cast iron, or you have a wooden one, also not that bad of efficiency as it insulates very good. Usually it's Douglas fir, Oregon pine. They work pretty well. This here is actually an oak container. I've never heard of a mash tun that was an oak container. They got it from an old German, or not old, discontinued German brewery, and otherwise it would be really, really expensive. And it's an oak mash tun. Never seen that before. After 1 ton of grist is turned into 6,000 liters of mash, it's off to the fermentation for alcohol production. The distillery has 4 wash bags with 6,000 liters they filled with, so 6,000 liters of mash. They add the yeast and it starts to ferment. Very traditional, as they have wooden wash bags, wooden fermentation vessels, and they let it sit in there for 48 hours for it to be fermented. And in the end they have a nice wash with 7% alcohol and some nice flavors that are going then straight into the still. There's no wash charger. And let's have a look at their very, very special stills. So the speciality from this distillery is that they have stills that are really, really old, or in a style really old. I'll come back to you how they have been rejuvenated. They used to have always like stills like this. They were bigger stills back in the days, but these stills of the shape are an 18th century stills. Like they were back really, really way back, like before 18th century, or even around 1830 was common for them. But it was common to have a still shape like this. Some of them were like built on their own, like just farm stills, just dingling them together and riveting it together. And back in the days, you were distinguishing between normal whiskey and Parliament whiskey. We're all drinking Parliament whiskey, as Parliament whiskey is the licensed whiskey. So this is kind of like whiskey back in the day before it became Parliament whiskey. So 3,000 liter wash still, and it stills through, comes through the spirit safe, relatively modern for an 18th century still spirit safe. And the spirit still was, in 2019, they discontinued with the old still because it was getting too thin. But they had a still that was 190 years old. I've shown it to you earlier during the history. And they replaced it. The thing how they could have a really, really old still was that still was similar to the others, but it was used to distill water. So it was not chemically reactive, so it held it out much longer. Now they use it for distilling the spirit. It has 2,000 liters of capacity, and the speciality about that is that the old stills had a really, really, really tiny neck, and that gives you a very distinctive reflux and alcohol separation thing going on there, and it really makes your whiskey very sweet, very light, and just gentle. Double distillation, very traditional style like. They don't have any measurements with the computer, and they actually do the measurements in the other room. So they and they turn everything manually with every valve here going manually. So very, very traditional, and the shape of it still very unique, very traditional, and one of the few distilleries that goes 18th century style stills. So I'm standing here in the storage unit, the warehouse for the maturation of the whiskey, and the first thing you're gonna realize is that it's a very specially shaped building. It is actually a perfect arch, so a perfect circle. That is always the best thing in terms of strength-wise to build, and it is actually was built in the 1940s, and the architect took inspiration from the Ctesiphon Palace in Iraq, in Baghdad. The Ctesiphon Palace was an ancient palace back in the days when Baghdad was the city to be in, like when it was the center of the known world. And he took inspiration from that. It looks similar, and this is actually one block of building. So he put a support structure in, he put nets in, and on the net there was concrete poured over it. So it was kind of like poured into place with one go, and obviously then solidified and put a bit of a tar paint on top to have none of the acid rain eating away the concrete back in the 1940s. That really was a thing. And maybe not here out on the countryside, but just to conserve it. And it's still very, very well conserved. And it's perfect for maturing whiskey. The molds are pretty thick and they really give good insulation. So in summer in here, it is not really that warm. Even so outside, it can be really hot. And in here, it's just nice and damp and yeah, just nice and good for maturing your whiskey really slowly and really gently. As they are now part of the Beam company, they actually do have cask switching. They get other casks in here and casks going out, so they can actually have a bit of security. If something would happen and catch fire, then the brand would not be on its end because some casks are somewhere else. And yeah, so this is the warehouse and maturing here. They have palletized warehouses, just easier for storage, and a very good environment for maturing the whiskey. Now, that's the end of the production, and now let's find out how the products actually taste. So yeah, that was it with the production, and I'm sitting here with Carol Harrington, and you are a tour guide, yes. And you are specialized in the history part of yes. of the distillery. Thank you very much for having us here, and thank you much for showing us around here.
No, it's been a pleasure. You're very welcome.
Yeah, it's just such an amazing place and so much history around here.
Yeah, it's like living history when you're here.
Yeah, and I actually, I've visited like, I don't know, probably now 250 distilleries. I still learned something today.
Oh, well, that's good.
A lot about the history, how it was before, back in the days, and it's amazing to see here.
Yeah.
So what I'm really interested, so what are we having today? So I'm having today. You have to drive.
Yeah, I have to drive.
I got a driver.
Some people get all the luck, don't they?
Yeah.
So today you're having triple cask. Mm-hmm. And the triple cask was before this our single grain.
Ah, okay.
So the single grain is this one here. And the triple cask is the makeover. So we have a new label and a new name. But this is the same whiskey.
So it's the same content?
Exactly the same. No
exactly
change in
the same
liquid.
content.
Yeah.
Also, we don't need to open that.
So I have the bottle, this one open, so we're going to pour from this one.
Oh, these are cool.
Yeah, measures it out for you and everything, so you don't drink too much. So this is a single grain, and it is made with nearly 100% corn. It has a mix of different ages. So we have younger whiskey in it, at 3 or 4 years old, up to quite older whiskey in 15, 16-year-old blended together. The reason we've now renamed it triple cask is because it has been matured in a bourbon cask, but some of it has also been finished in virgin oak, American virgin oak casks, and also in sherry casks.
So there's a lot of corn in there.
Yes, it's nearly 95% corn.
I was going to say is it's a lot of sweetness in here, and it feels a little bit like homage to American whiskey. So
yes, it would have. Yeah, you could compare it to a bourbon because of that corn content, but like it is a high content of corn. So you are going to get those light, sweet flavors, but you're also going to get a bit more complexity and richness there because we've had this extra aging, a bit more influence there as well from the different barrels.
I like it. It's a bit lighter than what we know from Americans.
Yeah.
And it's a bit more floral, a bit more fruity.
Yes, you're not going to get as much of the woody influences as well.
Oh, it's a little bit like a flatbread, or a bit bready. But our finish is a bit more spicy. Here comes a bit of the oak.
Yeah.
So what was the third cask?
That was sherry.
Sherry. Oh, there's a sherry in there. Okay, maybe that's from where it's from.
Yeah, it could be from there. And there's also virgin oak, so you're going to get a little bit of that more newer oak flavor.
Yeah, it has good additive maturation, so you feel a lot from the oak. You have vanilla, you have the caramel, so that's definitely not deniable in there. But there is more to it. I like it.
Yeah, it's a really, really good whiskey.
So, as we said earlier, you have so much good stuff around here. I would even call them really good artifacts of a past time. How did you get all this stuff?
So they were very fortunate, as in when they came to restore the buildings here, a lot of things were left as they were.
And
it
that's
hadn't been
just
disturbed.
lying around here?
Yeah, yeah. Just like that. And then as they were creating a museum, a lot of people had things from the distillery or from other places, and they brought them and donated them as part of the museum. Like, so we have lists of names of people who donated different things.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, we're very, very fortunate to be able to have all these artifacts and be able to show what we have as well.
Oh, it's such a cool place where you have like a whole cooperage down there.
Yeah.
You have like all these equipment there. You could have a malting floor with all the old equipment. That's
yeah, we do have like the tiles from the malting floor, and we have just like things that we haven't even put out on display, but we have spirit measures, old Valinches, just lots of different types of equipment.
Oh, you probably need some more space then.
Yeah. I actually want to go around and just inventory everything we have again, just because there's so much of it, yeah. And it just really adds to the atmosphere for people as well. It feels so authentic then.
Yeah, so cool, so cool. So what we have next is
Pot still.
pot still.
So pot still whiskey is an Irish type of whiskey, really, and it came from having malt whiskey, malt barley, which was taxed originally, and in Ireland they would add in unmalted barley, and this became known as pot still whiskey.
So malt was taxed for beer and whiskey.
Yeah.
They're cheeky.
And it's necessary. You can't do without it, like, you know. So you have to have it, and the so when they were bringing back production to Kilbeggan again, while we don't have the exact mash bill, we were just wanted to create something that was reflected what was the types of whiskey that was done here. So this is malted and unmalted barley with about 2.5% of oats.
Oats?
Oats, yeah.
Okay.
Now the oats would have been used in some of the old Irish whiskies when they were making it here originally, sometimes just for the structure of the mash rather than a lot of flavour. It does add a little bit of something there to it. This is going to have a bit more spice in it because it's pot still whiskey, so you have that unmalted barley in there as well, but it's still quite a sweet flavoured whiskey.
Okay, so but you do have a minimum amount of malt, so you don't have enzymes and stuff like.
Yes, so this is essentially like 90. In Ireland, I think it's over 90% has to be malted and unmalted barley.
Okay.
To be called pot still.
Yeah, but the form, what the concentration of unmalted and malted?
They're nearly 50-50.
Oh, 50-50?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a high malted content.
High malted content, yeah.
Okay. Oh, very different. So what kind of?
You're going to get some like that malted barley really gives, or sorry, the unmalted barley gives you that really a kind of a spicy flavour there.
Yeah, a spicy flavour, but also some
also
kind of
sweetness as well.
Sweetness and a bit of a I would say grapey, fruity, something.
Yeah.
How is it? Red apple? I'm not quite sure. It's a mixture. I like it. So,
yeah.
And you have a bit of oat in there. I like that.
Yeah. The oats was just added in, and when they were doing the production here, I think it wasn't the easiest way to work with the oats and the malted and unmalted barley. So it's quite an experiment. So this was one of the ones that was done on site here, and is very different to the whiskies that Cooley make.
Isn't that like hard to mill because oat is a bit?
Yeah, there was a bit of difficulty there because they had to. I think they had to do it by hand. You know, they had to feed it by hand, and there was a lot of different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The hand processes are not the most liked ones by staff.
And this was in 2010 when they brought the full production back on stream here. So they wanted, as I said, honour, I suppose, the styles of whiskey and things, because originally they would have used malted and unmalted barley. But also in just one of the interviews that they did with one of the workers that used to work here back in the 30s and 40s, he also said that he knew if they were using wheat in the mash, because it didn't taste as good when you had less malt barley in it and more wheat. So they did mix in other grains sometimes just to make up what they needed.
It's
great whiskey.
It has great quality, yeah. But still, it has a bit of a sour touch to it. It has a bit of a spicy touch to it. A lot of sweetness in there. I would have expected less sweetness in here.
No, it is a lot sweeter than you would think now with it. I have to say it's one of my favourites.
I expected if for more corn bill. I always thought like corn is the sweet stuff from what you get from bourbon. Probably all the virgin oak cask is going from bourbon. This is nice. I like that.
And just like, I suppose, it's just the fact that it's so different to the other whiskies that you'd normally get here. And I just have to say, I really like this one myself.
Now, I've seen all the production, and I've actually seen I'm not quite sure how to describe it, museum, old distillery. And there's another video coming out and where I'm going to show you how a distillery was run like around 1800. And so how much of that equipment is still like in working condition, or how could you get it up? Or?
I would say, like, for the actual equipment itself, maybe 60 to 70%. But you would have to get a lot more like pipe work and all that sort of stuff sorted out. I'm also not sure like if we'd be allowed to from, you know, food safety and all of that. But yeah, it's potentially
and worker safety.
And never mind that, the worker safety
worker
as well.
safety.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, there's potential there. Everything kind of, even if it's not working now, like you could connect in the millstones, turn on the mash tun, it would work.
Yes, I would say the whole water mill shaft, except for some cogs for the millstones, they were like bit worn. But the mash tun, I would just say, grease it a little bit.
Oh yes, yeah.
Clutch it in, just go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Yeah.
I think if you'd get the piping done, then you'd probably have yourself a way too big mash tun.
I think we might do. Yes, I think we could end up with an awful lot of space.
In terms of your mash tun, and then you have washbacks. The washbacks, they look quite good, but
yeah, I think they might leak a bit.
Dry.
Yeah.
It
would take a lot of water to get them back into working condition, I would say.
Just probably spray them at the beginning, and then try to fill them and just get out what's coming under them, and then hopefully they'll be. But they're big. They're quite big, right?
They would hold the washbacks 52,000 litres.
52,000
about
litres.
9 feet high, I think is what they said. They were.
Yes, and kind of the stills. Okay, the stills outside they are from the old Tullamore still, and direct firing. Maybe not the best thing, but your stills are already like really historic in shape.
Yes.
I really love that. I really love that. But you'd probably get yourself more stills because of what you have in equipment there is for a lot of whiskey.
Yes, for an awful lot of whiskey, yes. Yeah.
A lot of whiskey.
I think that what was in the old distillery had the potential to make 200,000 gallons in a year, which is what, 900,000 litres, if everything was working perfectly.
That is quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd probably need the stills what you have out there to run 900,000 liters.
Yeah, you would need a lot.
But a bit smaller, I
think maybe a bit smaller,
Maybe a bit smaller. Okay, so the last one is something really special. I've never had one.
The rye.
I was about to ask you, are you allowed to do it? Yeah, sure, why not?
So this one is the second one that we have here that was fully made on site here in 2010. It's 30% rye and then malted and unmalted barley.
Okay, 30% rye.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so is there like a law around rye whiskey in Ireland?
No,
or is it just,
there's not at the moment. I don't think. No.
It's just Irish whiskey, and you just write rye on it. But 30% rye is very, very rye.
Yes,
very rye.
This really adds a lot of spiciness, the rye to it. You really get it on the nose, but you'll get it in the palate as well. Yeah, it's very, very spicy. This one was another one that was quite awkward to work with because it was fine. The rye is quite fine, the malted rye.
Oh, okay.
And so when you're trying to work it in the old mash tuns, it's or the mash tun here, like it was quite a challenge with that it wasn't clogging the base of the mash tun for draining off the liquid.
Oh, okay. So was it time, or did someone with something?
It just was time. They just got used to it. I think they just had to learn how to work with it because it was quite different. But they were still learning here anyway at that stage, because the production we do here is very, very different to the production we do in Cooley, which would be like most distilleries. You would have computers and all of that, which we don't have.
So and here you get it out of the mash tun manually? What was that?
Manually, yes.
Manually. Okay, so that is hard.
So they have to climb in, the distiller, and they shovel out the grain.
It's also the rye has a even more spicy touch to it.
Definitely, yeah, you're definitely going to get that spicy.
But it also has a nice oak touch to it.
Yeah, it's very good whiskey.
It's good matured as well. Fairly far.
So I suppose these two, we don't have any age statements on them. They were both produced in 2010. Rye was released in 2018, and then the pot still in 2019. So you're talking about that kind of age group, but they don't have any definite age statement on them.
Oh, that's a strange rye, because you have such a fine distillate, but the rye really comes through. It doesn't come in. Boy, that's a hefty rye.
No, it's not like if you were to go and taste like, I suppose, a Canadian rye or American rye, it's very different to that type of whiskey.
Yeah, because they distill a lot different than you. But with this one was run down through the small stills, right?
Yeah.
So that is strange, because when you have it in your mouth, you're like, oh, nice Irish whiskey. And when you just swallow it, you just go, oh, nice Irish rye.
Yeah. So these two were done here, and they were both run through that old 190-year-old still as well. So, but yeah, and there is anecdotal evidence that they did use rye here sometimes as well, originally, in the old distillery.
Oh yeah, you changed the still in 2009.
2019.
2019.
Yeah.
So it was run through the
oldest,
very ancient.
Still, 180.
I mean, the other one is the same, but.
But this was the 100. Yeah, this is the 180-year-old still. Yeah.
180-year-old still. So nice.
It's older than all of us.
Obviously, I think older than any of our granddads. So I like it. I had it in the history section of my video that it was discontinued in 1954, and
yes,
there was like really stuff going on, like a pig farmer and the car salesman. And unfortunately, they didn't plan to build a supermarket or something like that.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. And so when they brought it back, how did that happen?
It started with local volunteers.
Oh, okay.
Basically, local volunteers decided they were going to do what they could to try and rescue the distillery in the 1980s. And that's where it started. And it was like overgrown. The roofs had come in. There was just, the machinery was all rusted, and they just decided they wanted to try and bring it back to life.
Okay.
And have a visitor centre here.
Okay, and then they brought it back a little bit, and,
bit by bit, yeah.
And tried to do like museum style. And,
yes, yeah.
And how did it end up as a working distillery?
So in 1987, Cooley Distillery was founded, and that's where the main production for all our whiskies are today. They brought back the Kilbeggan brand, and at the beginning they were using the warehousing here in Kilbeggan to store their whiskey in. And in 2011, the distillery and the museum part kind of became one under Cooley, because up to that we were separate. We were run by the voluntary committee, and it was at that stage then that Cooley came in then, and sold us all then we ended up then being sold to Beam, Jim Beam, the American whiskey company. But in 2007 we had our 250th anniversary of our first license, and Cooley wanted to bring a production back here to honour that, and to make some special brands of whiskey here as well. Okay,
and so you brought in, like, what was it, Richard Forsyth and...
Yes, and they had got the small still refurbished, and then the wash still was built to the same style as the small still, the right equipment to match it in with it. And then in 2010, they brought in the rest of the production, which was the mash tun and the fermentation vats.
Nice. So then you gradually build it up, and Visitor Centre was kind of there before, but probably expanded?
Yes. Yeah, so with the Visitor Centre, up until 2007, it was basically you were being told the story, but you couldn't see any production.
Oh, okay.
So it made it much better, I think, for our visitors to learn the story and the history, but then also to come across the working distillery and be actually able to see what we've been talking about.
Yeah, it's for me. It's I will follow the story. What you're gonna do in the future. I would love for you to like get it going again. But is it then 2 distilleries, or will you go with like you scrap the it's still traditional equipment, but this is like really traditional
This
equipment.
one is really traditional. And of course, we would be limited what we can do with the machinery as well, because it's all protected now, so nothing can be done to change it or do anything too much to it. So.
Ah, okay, so it's like heritage, yeah? Well,
Yes, yeah.
working heritage would be much cooler. It's just, but I think the equipment is built to last for
Amazing.
eternity.
Yeah. Yeah, like our steam engine is from 1887 and it still runs. And
1887.
Yeah, and it still runs.
Probably the water wheel, the flywheel from
Yeah.
the water wheel is just even older.
Yeah, oh, that's even older, yeah. And
Yeah,
it's just, yeah.
It's just really, really
We don't
old.
keep machinery that long anymore.
Yeah, it's not meant to be. Back in the days, they were just planning on it much longer.
Yeah, and they make it look nice as well. You know, when you look at it, it's all nicely carved and everything. It always looks well.
Yeah. What I also liked, didn't have in my video yet, was your own bottling program.
Oh yes, we do a bottle your own, direct from the cask. It's the malt whiskey that's produced here that also went through that very old still. At the moment it's 11 years old and they can bottle directly from the cask it's been matured in. So it's literally taking it straight out from where it's been resting.
Yeah, you just take it out with one of, what's it called?
The
whiskey. Valinch, yeah. Some call it the whiskey thief.
The whiskey thief, yeah.
I like it because that's actually the way you take something out of a cask, where you sample a cask. I've seen that a lot when you get samples from distilleries where they take it out and you're like, want to try it immediately or want to have a sample bottle? Or
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So people can buy then, and when they come in, they do the whole lot themselves. They take it out of the casks themselves, they fill it into the bottle, fill out the label with all the information, and sign the book as well.
Yeah. If you're lucky, then the cask is still pretty full, and you can do it in one take. And I think if it's nearly empty, then
you're a long time, yes.
But I think people won't mind.
No, it's all part of the experience.
Yes. And that is what the distillery bottling is. What kind of whiskey is that?
That's Kilbeggan. It's a malt whiskey, single malt.
Single malt.
Yeah, it's 11 years old at this one that we're doing at the moment.
Okay, yeah. So another reason to go to the Kilbeggan Distillery, because I don't think single malt is it out on one market or?
It's not really out at the moment at all. We have no
at
single,
all. So it's just at the distillery.
Just what we have here. And even if they do bring out a single malt, the one we have here is just totally unique because it's a single cask.
Sure.
It's completely different. You will not get it anywhere else.
Yeah. So I think we're through.
Okay.
So thank you very much for watching.
Hope that was okay.
For showing everything. It's just amazing experience.
Thank you. I hope everything was okay for you there with the...
Yeah, thank you very much for watching. And if you found this video interesting, then please feel free to share it with your friends. And see you next time.